And then I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Nakia Strickland.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cardinal Conversations. We're so excited to see everyone and have everyone here for this great event. As Kelsey mentioned, my name is Nakia Strickland, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Constituent Relations in the Office of Alumni Relations at the University of Louisville. So thank you for joining us for a candid conversation with Dr. Faye Jones and Phyllis Clark, who are both graduates of the University of Louisville. Dr. Faye Jones serves as the Senior Associate Vice President for Diversity and Equity and the Associate Vice President for Health Affairs Diversity Initiatives at the University of Louisville. Phyllis Clark serves as the Vice President for Student Services at Simmons College of Kentucky and the founder of HERS for Black Women Scholars, HERS standing for Higher Education, Resources, and Support. A question and answer session will follow this discussion, so we encourage you to use the chat to drop your questions. And I will now turn it over to Ms. Phyllis Clark.
Make sure I unmute myself. I sometimes tend to forget that. Well, hey, everybody. So glad to be here. So honored to be able to facilitate this discussion. Look, before we get started right into our questions, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I just want to congratulate the university for two reasons. So I just read today and earlier this week that U of L is ranking as one of the best colleges to attend in 2020, and that is according to the U.S. News and World Report. And even bigger than that, we are, look, I'm going to go ahead and say we, I'm an alum, based on, according to the U.S. Department of Education, we are the best school to attend in Kentucky, you all. And that is looking at metrics like professors, student life, location, and what we're all interested in talking more about tonight, diversity. And so with that, I'm going to pause for a second and just let Dr. Faye come on and introduce herself a little bit more, and I'll be ready for the first question that you all have submitted. Dr. Faye?
Thank you, Phyllis. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for inviting me for this opportunity to speak with all of you and to have a nice conversation. I just to tell you a little bit about myself. I have been at the university for 30 years, been a long time. But I grew up in Kentucky, a place in Metcalfe County, a little place called Knoblich. We had a stop sign there and farms, and that's all we had. Went to high school, school in the county. There was one high school, so you didn't have a choice of where you're going. We all knew where it was. It was very, very straight path to the same high school. Then I went to Western for my undergraduate. And I went there because it was close to home. Like I said, I grew up on the farm, so I went home every weekend. So I got to help on the farm, milking cows, doing tobacco, all the great things that you would typically do. And then I came to University of Louisville for my medical school. Now, this is something that I've always had wanted to do, is be a pediatrician. I knew that when I was little, that I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I was very fortunate to be able to do that. After my practice, or after I finished with medical school and my residency in pediatrics, I had a 2-year obligation for a public health loan to help pay for my medical school. And I was in Milwaukee, inner city of Milwaukee, for 2 years. Planning on going back to rural Kentucky or rural somewhere to practice. But the university called and said, would you like to come back here? So I thought, okay, I know Louisville, sure. That would be great. So I came back and ended up on faculty and been here ever since. But during that time on faculty, I was very fortunate to have lots of people that was pushing me or helping me along. Had lots of issues, but had lots of people that helped me get through my career, including an interim dean, Laura Swagner. I'm just went blank on her name, but Laura, who gave me the opportunity to not just practice pediatrics, which I love, but to go into administration. And since 2006, I kind of been doing a little bit of both, the practice, the research, teaching, and administration. And with that is how I was able to build what we're doing in diversity. First, as through the School of Medicine, focusing mainly on students, and then building it to all 4 schools in a health science center campus, looking at faculty, students, staff, and administrators. And last year, when Dr. Maureen Taylor retired, I've been serving as the interim Senior Associate Vice President for Diversity and Equity. And it's been a nice learning experience. Going from a campus of the Health Science Center to this campus is definitely a learning experience, because even though it's the same university, they are 2 different cultures, and lots of things that I had to learn, thinking of going from professionals students to lots of undergraduate students, just lots of different things, and lots of things that you would think kind of crosses over, but every place has its own culture, and I have been learning ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talked about having a mentor, and I just want to tell you how you have been one of mine. And so I appreciate your work, your service, your passion, everything that you have brought to the front line, if you will. And, you know, speaking of folks on the front line, we have a lot going on right now, a lot in just our community, a lot in the region, a lot in the nation and the world. But, you know, when I spent a lot of time, 17 years on campus as a staff member also, and in undergraduate admissions for 10, and in the Cultural Center for 7. And I see you, Craig. I see you out there, one of the students. But, you know, as I think about how the campus environment was at that time, the first question I want to start with looks at what's going on right now in terms of how students and even faculty and staff, from your perspective, are feeling. And so the question is, with this particular conversation occurring during the first couple of weeks of school, what, in your opinion, what has been the vibe of campus thus far? And so I know you've done work on health sciences, and now you're on Belknap, and you've probably been to the 3rd campus too, but are non-white individuals, students, faculty, and staff, feeling accepted and included on campus right now?
So, you know, like you said, this is the beginning of the school year. I was here during the summer too when well, actually, since we've closed, I've been on campus on both campuses a lot. And during the summer, it was a strange feeling. The few students that were here, I think they were trying to be engaged as much as possible. Now that school is reopened back up, I am going to say that I think people are happy to be back, and they are making those connections that they've missed for so long. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And one of the things that we want to do is to find out how students are feeling, having forums to talk to students to see how they're feeling and how they're adjusting, and see how they're connecting with all the things on campus. Right now, I think a lot of students are trying to survive. They're trying to survive being back on campus, knowing that all of this is going on around them, the pandemic for the COVID-19, the pandemic for all the racial unrest. It is hard. So even though students are happy to be connected with each other, they still, I think in my mind, have that feeling of what's going to happen next. And what's going to happen all across. I mean, I have students or have kids that's on the campus as well, because I have 5 kids. Just so you know, I have 5 kids of my own, and 2 of them are on campus right now. And just listening to their perspective, I said they're happy to be back, but still feeling a little bit disconnected in some ways, just because of all the pressures, all the other pressures that's on them right now of trying to adjust to a new world that none of us have seen before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's virtual.
Yeah, I wanted to, you know, so I'm at Simmons College right now, and some of the work that I've been doing is really trying to work on the relationships that I have, you know, with the students. And once that happens and they become aware that I'm aware, and I tell the students all the time, you know, Craig, you might remember this, you know, I'm going to meddle. I'm going to get in your business. You know, I'm going to this, that, and the other. But so are there faculty or staff who have had conversations with you talking about what they're doing specifically to understand how their students are really feeling? I don't mean the surfacey, you know, stuff that we like to talk about and just in passing, but really deep down those connections. Do they feel like that there are people out there ready to support them? Are you hearing that or observing it at all?
I am. And, you know, one of the things you said is that you got to get deep down and let students know or let people know and just be invasive, intrusive, we'll say, with that. And it's something my grandmother taught me very, very well, is to be intrusive without letting people know that you're being intrusive. And then you get a lot of information. But yeah, we have lots of faculty and staff that are meeting with our students, that have forums for our students, and do counseling sessions for our students, so they can hear what students are feeling and help them and support them in whatever ways that's needed. And sometimes it's just talking. Sometimes they may need something more than just having that ear for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It may take a long time. But then having groups and forums and so many different ways of interacting. It could be virtually, it could be in person. So we're trying to provide many, many ways to connect with our students and faculty and our staff to make sure that they're being supported.
And that is a nice little segue into the next two questions. So alumni have specifically asked, how can we support and contribute to your goals in your role? And I think you've already kind of alluded to some of that, but some tangible things that we can start thinking about just from where we are, you know, in our workplaces or community interests and affinities. What can we do to support you?
Okay. One of the first things is to be involved. Just be involved. If we're doing something well, let us know. If we're not, let us know, and help us with ideas of strategies to improve it. But more specifically, we have students that need mentors. We have students that need places that they can go to just have some peace, we'll say. So those are ways you can help. There are students that need places where they can do like internships. Those would be great. And our Cultural and Equity Center, which is right now all in Strickler Hall, that's a place where you can meet students, have time to talk to them, let them see that you're there. Tell them the experiences that you had and how you overcame some of these things that may be happening to them now. Just be there for them. And there's always the financial support. And it doesn't have to be gigantic dollars. We're not asking for that, but sometimes just little things make such a big difference. You know, buy a meal, buy something. It's just be involved, and that makes all the difference in the world. That's how you can help more than anything else, is to be involved, see what our students need, talk to them, see what they need, let them tell you what they might need. We are in the process of building a new cultural center, cultural and equity center. For those that may have known our old cultural center, it was old, but it was home to so many people. It was home. We are building a new one, and it will open up in the fall of 2021. So not much longer. The year is going by very quickly. It seems like already. There are going to be resources that's needed there. Computers. Students need computers. Not everybody can afford a computer, but having those spaces that will make that area home, that feels like it's a warm, inviting place. Those are some of the things that we need.
Yeah, I like what you said in terms of a place for peace, because there's a lot going on mentally. You know, it's what I'm finding with our students, and it's these situations, and some of them are real, some of them are perceived. And as practitioners, we have to be able to discern and address all of that. But you made me think about a counter space. So we as alums could also use our offices, maybe our workplaces, to offer a counter space to learn more about our individual students, or 2 or 3 at a time, or whatever is what I'm hearing you say. The technology piece is a big issue, and
And it's not
go
technology
ahead.
for one person, but technology for our building, because we want their space to be something that it meets everybody's expectation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's many areas that alumni can be very, very helpful for.
Okay. Everybody's walking around with a cash app too. On their birthday, they're putting their cash tags and all of this. So, students are always ready to receive $10, $15 or whatever.
Your
Yeah.
cash, everyone.
Yeah.
So.
You actually answered question 3, speaking a little bit more to marginalized populations. Anything else that you want to add to that as you think about other groups?
Well, it is not just the groups that we directly serve, but all groups on the campus. There's areas that our students need mentors, and that's just not our students that we serve directly. We serve a lot of students indirectly, and I hear it from across the board. Mentoring is so important, and it's not just mentoring for students, it's mentoring for our staff and faculty. It goes beyond one group. It is extended across the board. So I think that's exceptionally important. But one of the things I said from the beginning is, alumni, what I would love to hear is your ideas of how we can make things better. So it's not for us to tell you what things to do, but bring us ideas too, because it's so important to have a broader perspective on all of this.
Mm-hmm. So, in an hour, this meeting will be over, and, some of us will still be thinking about what you've said. Is there a place where we can go in 2 hours or tomorrow to submit that idea, or to get closer to making it tangible, and real, instead of waiting until a year from now to hear you say the same thing and start to think about it again? What can we do now? Because, this moment is fleeting.
What you can do now. Okay, like I said, our students need mentors. Come in, be a mentor. You have so many skills. Come in and talk to the students and to others of how you have been resilient and achieve your goals. And that's not talking about all the great things, all the easy things that may have been there. You don't talk about just the good things. You talk about all your obstacles and how you overcame it. Come give us talks. Give us talks. Give us anything that you have to spare, basically. Give us yourselves. That's what I'm talking about. We have the opportunity. You can go through the alumni office. You can go through our office, and we can discuss what resonates with you and how that can help our students.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. So someone else is asking, we're going to pivot just a little bit. What resources are available to students who have been victims of racism by staff or other students? What is the protocol or the measures that we currently have in place?
We have the resources. We have lots of resources through all our diversity units and through the student affairs and in many other places as well. But, we have folks that are trained to help students deal with these things. Like I said, I've been here for 30 years and went to medical school here before that time. Some things has lasted. Unfortunately, so some of those experiences lasted with the racism that you might be dealing with, the microaggressions, those things persist. and they have a tendency to change shape, change the way they might come out, but they're still there. So we have folks ready to talk to our students, to provide guidance in those things. We have training sessions for our students on how to deal with it, but also more importantly, training for people to offset those things, what we call our upstander training. So you see these things happening to someone, you stop it, and giving you the skills to do that. So those are important. We're also revamping our bias incident reporting system, so as part of our campus environment team, so that it will be more able to directly help students, faculty, and staff. Like I said, these things, when we were looking in our office, we are very broad, but who do you call if you want to do it? Who do you call? How do you report this, so that we can track these things and know, and hopefully where they're happening more so than others, so we can develop strategies to help with that, to stop these things from coming. So there's opportunities. Our student affairs office has what they call a care team, a care system. And within that system, they also offer training and support and counseling. Our counseling service here on the campus is exceptional. So those are all possibilities for students. Like I said before, I'm a pediatrician, and in our pediatric department, we now are putting a protocol, a specific policy related to these issues, so that our students know who they can talk to, where to go, what the timeline is for something to happen, and then a feedback, what happened with the information they gave. But our HR system also has those things in place to address some of these issues.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that about the BERT, the bias incident reporting team. Now, we know that trauma and instances related to it can happen at 3 a.m. Is this a rapid action or a laser fast reporting? Are there things in place for students who go through something like this and really need to say something to someone quickly, even in the middle of the night?
So that's the plan, that it will be. Right now, like I said, we're reimagining what it looked like, because we want to make sure that we're doing the best possible. So we just are receiving the recommendations from the subcommittee that's looking at our BERT system. And using those recommendations, we will be building it. And that the goal is to have it so that it can be immediate action to help someone. Because when it happens to you, you need that support right away. You need to, and whether you want the support or not, but you want to, some people just want to report it. And that's okay. But you need to have that place that you can do it 24 hours a day, and hopefully have that follow up in a timely manner as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, you alluded to this, and now I want you to unwrap it just a little bit more. Can you describe, I know people, the word diversity is still a buzzword, diversity is still out there. And, and we have those things. Some people look at it as just a typical thing. Some people just want to check it off of a box, check the box and say, we did this. And then there are other legal requirements around that for institutions and corporations and so forth. But we received an A in diversity. When I say we, I'm talking about the University of Louisville. It was an A- for this work. So that means this is not just something that the university is saying. And I know that there are still other complexities around all of this, but can you talk then about, so something else is happening for our school. And I like that. I know more still needs to happen. But can you describe a little bit more about the diversity training and the tools? What is it? How can other schools learn from us and what we're doing for this work for our students, faculty, and staff? So the techniques, training, tools. What do we do?
So I am happy that we received an A-. A in this and that we get awards on our diversity, but we have far to go. And I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that. Just what are we comparing to right now? We want to be much better than where we are right now because there are still issues that we have to acknowledge and address. Some of the trainings that we do is unconscious bias, implicit bias, because a lot of times people don't even realize that they have to. I hear all the time, I have no biases. Everybody have biases. So if you don't acknowledge that they're there, how can you do anything to change your behavior towards whatever that bias is? It's not saying I'm getting rid of your bias. It is that we need you to be aware so that your decisions can bring that into play. That, look, maybe I have a bias right here. Let's rethink and make a better decision. Mm-hmm. We have upstander training and microaggressions. So it's when those little microaggressions, it's like little mosquito bites that happen to you all the time. And then what are you going to do to kind of stop that? And what is the people around you going to do to intervene? Because sometimes you get tired, and you know, after you've been bitten so many times, one little incident may push you over. So we need other people to step up and know how to help stop that, to intervene. So that's the purpose of that training. We have cultural humility and training, and that means if you don't understand the things about yourself, how can you interact appropriately with others? So that is really important. Critical conversations is happening all the time. So we have to talk about these things: race, racism, the anti-racism agenda that we're trying to move toward. It is not something that we are there yet. We got a long ways to go, and we're near to that end point. It is always a constant work in progress. But if we don't talk about these things, we can't do anything about it. It's not going to change. So those are some of the typical type trainings that they do. There's many more, but those are some of the things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I was preparing for this conversation, I did look to see what was offered, and there is a nice, robust, and what I like about it is that it's, you know, there's for the issues, the various issues that people want to know and understand better. And you know, I'm with you. So when I was actually, you know, I've never left this work. I've always stayed close to diversity and helping others to understand. I mean, really, when you think about what the word is, what the construct means, it gets to the core, you know, of the person, you know, because all of us make up whatever these other entities are, you know, in terms of our workplaces or our schools. It's all made up of us. And if we don't know who we are, that's a problem. And I know it's hard to get there because of all of the truths and things that we haven't, you know, gotten to.
And some of those things are about ourselves that we don't want to recognize.
Right.
And we have to accept that, yes, we, believe it or not, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
We have our own issues, and we have to understand that, and how our lives, our experiences have affected who we are now, and some of the thoughts that come that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm listening to Isabella Wilkerson's cast, and it is hard. It is hard, and I'm learning some things. Some things, of course, I knew, but I recommend that to all of my fellow alums out there to take a listen, take a look, take a read at why we feel the way we feel about all of these things. You know, she makes some great points about us it's more than just race and racism. You know, it's about this structural command that we have in society that dictates everything that we're all going through and living through together, whether you want to recognize that or not. And she describes caste as being the bone, while race, and racism is the skin. And if we took, we're so surfacey with all of this and the conversations that it's time to dig down to the bone to really get to this truth and other self-awareness opportunities. And, higher education is a space where all of this can grow through.
And I'm
So
saying,
I appreciate the work.
yeah, go even deeper than the bone, go into the marrow so that you can dig around into all of that.
Yes, yes. Let's pivot again and talk a little bit more about the students specifically. What are some of the current programs that we have on campus now to keep our Black students specifically engaged on campus?
Okay, so I mean, just like when you were there and was over at the Cultural Center, we have lots of things going on. Our Porter Scholars, which has been going on for years, and I'm not quite sure how many years, but I know it's been a long, long time. So
Yeah.
that is one of them. Our LSAMP, which is a Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority
Participation.
And that is for students, underrepresented students who are interested in the STEM fields.
Yes.
A wonderful program as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Black Male Initiative, because we want to see more of our men of color matriculate and continue on through college and go beyond. So this is a way of supporting them. But one of the programs that we did with our men of color this past spring, and then the last session got interrupted because of COVID, was a quilting project. So those kind of things, quilting projects. So we had these men who was making the quilt and having that conversation as they were making it over 8 weeks, and it was absolutely wonderful. Hispanic Latino Initiative is another program. So there's many, our Ali scholars, our MLK scholars. So there's many things, and I have not even touched them all. So
no, there's 494 clubs and organizations.
That's right. There's a lot. So there's lots of things that keep students engaged, and a lot of those programs go through the Cultural Center. And it's through our diversity offices.
Yes. Greek Life, NPHC, National Panhellenic Council.
Yep, all of those. And even in the professional schools, we have organizations. We have our health and social justice scholars who are related, who's interested in health disparities and community engaged research. So there's so many things that's keeping our students engaged, and all of them.
And I appreciate how the university still is committed to let it, from what I see and from what I experienced. There were some tough times, but I just saw where the Black Student Union president, I'm not sure if that's still Association of Black Students or if it's now the Black Student Union, how she was featured in the Chronicle of Higher Education, and letting her voice be amplified to that level was amazing. And her story, and it seemed, it's relevant. It's what our students on our campus are talking about. And so they recognized her as a campus activist.
And she
and an actionist. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, student voice is so strong and pushes things much quicker than they would be without their voice.
Yeah, in fact, that's how your role came to be, because of the emergence of the students' voices, and they would not give up. And I think Craig, I'm sorry I'm calling you out so many times, but you were there when I was there, and we're just doing things together as student staff. But, we had a Porter Scholar meeting going on. I think this was prior, I was still in admissions, but there was Dr. Tamar Adams, I think, was the advisor at the time. And there was a Porter Scholar meeting going on in the SAC, and the FBI burst in there with guns drawn, and the students weren't having it, so they wanted to understand how could something like that happen? And over a series of meetings, and Cedric, I know you probably remember this too real good, how all of this was able to unfold, and the massive disrespect shown to our students at that time. And a year later, Dr. Mordine's position was born. You know, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And then to see that over course of 2 decades,
And,
you know.
yeah.
So,
Taylor Archer did a lot. She really pushed the agenda a lot. And because of her pushing so many years, and she pushed a long time, that's one of the reasons why we are getting a new Cultural and Equity Center today, is because of her push for so many years to make sure this is happening.
nice. All right. Thank you. Oh, I meant to tell our alums who are here with us. So in fall of 2019, I don't know if everyone knows that there was almost a 4% increase in our Black student population. So kudos to that. I know Jenny Sawyer and her team, and I reported to her for 10 years, so I can imagine everything that she has done or is doing with the entire team over there to make that happen. So let's get into the next question. I know time is moving. Okay, this is a little shift into the community. So how is the university reaching out to historically underprivileged populations? So think about the west side of Louisville, Appalachia, some other regions in the Commonwealth. And I was reading up on what the College of Education is doing with the Cardinal Success Program. So I was happy to read about that, and mental health services for the folks over on the west side through telehealth operations, and to the point where they were giving them technology so that they could have good, meaningful, purposeful telehealth conversations. So anything else that you can supply?
So, I mean, there's several ways that we're doing outreach. It's when we're trying to recruit. Admissions office have done a lot of outreach in many areas throughout the state, including the West End, West Louisville, and Appalachia, all over. There's virtual meetings, there's many other things, usually with porters, there's outreach there.
Just using the students.
And then with Central High School, there's lots of programming that's going on. I mean, with the law school, they have a program where they're supporting students that's interested in law and kind of giving them a guaranteed admission into law school from high school.
Okay. Yeah. Harlan Scholarship Program.
Which is great. Our AHEC program, our Area Health Education Centers, are all across the state. This is a national program, but each state has an AHEC program where they're going into schools and doing education, health-related education, but supporting students in that way and bringing up the name of U of L, but all across the state. So not just limited to U of L. Other ways that we're doing the outreach there, so I'm going back to Central High School because the Health Science Center has done a lot of programming with Central High School and with nursing, with medicine. Those are the two big ones, but dentistry, Sherry Babbage has done an outstanding job. Vicki Hines-Martin from the nursing school. But those type of outreach inside the high schools and inside even as low as elementary schools, U of L has made a point to do that. Dr. President Bendaputi, I know last year she's visited 3 high schools in Eastern Kentucky to make sure she talked with all juniors and seniors there. So there's a lot of outreach that's happening across the state to make sure that we're bringing that information and making sure students, and particularly students of color, under represented students, economically disadvantaged students, are aware that U of L wants you to be there, wants you to be here. So it is a complex things, a complex number of things that is happening out there, but it is exciting to see, and hopefully we One more. I know you available. Like it's still in talks with JCPS to see what else can happen. But another thing that's happening too, which is great, with the Evolve 502 that just got announced, where every student that's graduated from high school this coming year can go to JCPS or Simmons College for free. For those students that finish up those programs, their associate degrees, and if they're Pell eligible, they can come to U of L with the same type of commitment. So we are trying our best because we would like to be able to increase our diversity, because we know how important diversity is to the educational endeavors for everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to pivot to your exciting discipline. And someone wants to know what can be done in practical terms to achieve equity in healthcare. I know our minutes are running down, and we have a few from the chat that I want to get into. But I tell you, I just had a doctor's appointment a few weeks ago, and I was taken aback when my white physician, female, asked me how I was doing, and she wouldn't take my answer. She wanted me to go deeper. And so, I was startled a little bit. I didn't expect that. So my visit lasted 15, 20 more. It didn't even matter to her, the clock. And I loved every bit of it. I was stumped for a second because she was like, tell me what more I can do. And as a medical professional, I snapped her picture. I'm like, oh, here, let me take, putting her on Facebook and stuff. I mean, I probably should have done that. But in terms of the question, so that's what she wants to know. What can she do in practical terms to help achieve equity in healthcare? How would you answer that?
All right. In general, then we'll go to the practical.
Okay.
It's recognizing that racism and structural racism does impact health. That is because that is a fundamental thing, but not everybody recognizes that it does. Racism is a social determinant of health. So I like the fact that your doctor asked you and pushed you on those questions. How are you doing? What can you do? But we have to start in our curriculum of how we're teaching how medicine should be practiced and understanding those deeper things. Even when we're teaching the social determinants of health in schools generally across the nation, it is such a overview. When we talk about diseases, a lot of times it is, okay, this Black person has this, but we have to go deeper and show how the structural determinants of health, including racism, structural racism, has affected what those structural determinants of health are and how that really is impacting the health of our persons of color, how it causes increased stress, how all of those things will lead to premature death, chronic disease, and death. So one of the first things is starting in the curriculum. And this year, they are changing the curriculum to address some of these issues. So helping develop that curriculum, or helping listening to see what that curriculum is like. Giving advice on that curriculum is going to be so important to hear different perspectives. What you can do in your office, like I said, we tell folks all the time, okay, get out and walk and do a little bit more exercises. All right, or eat more fruit and vegetables. That may not be a reality. Figure out what is happening in their environment. Right. And asking those questions, dig into those questions like this person did with you. Ask the questions, because if you don't ask, I'm not telling you. I mean, as a patient, I wouldn't tell you all these things. So you have to sincerely ask the questions of your patients, of what's going on in their lives. Is, when you recommend a treatment, is it something that's based in reality, or is it something that this is what we always say? Make sure having more diversity in our healthcare, in our workforce is going to be is very important. But just having that view that I want to learn, first off, learn more about what all of this is about and putting that learning into practice.
Mhm.
It, those are, they're not simple, but
Yeah.
those are things. The other thing, telehealth is really, really important now. Make sure that you're equipped to do telehealth because a couple of things. People don't want to come to the office, not if they don't have to. And you make sure that the telehealth can happen with your patient. Whatever you have to do to set that up and make sure that they have that accessibility. Those are some simple, quickie things.
Great. So you would be happy with me because I told her about racial battle fatigue and how real that is.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was just to honor the stories and help other doctors to understand, to honor the stories of everyone and to speak to those lived experiences when she's teaching and when she's, in consultation, because she's the top doc in her practice, I'm happy to say. So
another thing too, look at your environment in your office. What kind of pictures and all these things are represented. So make sure it is a welcoming environment for when somebody walks in, they see something that represents something that they can connect.
Right. Love it. Thank you. Okay, and the last one, and you actually answered one of the ones that came through the chat about what is UofL doing to partner with schools like Simmons and JCTC. I have my phone away, so I need to look at it again and make sure I got it all there. And Kentucky State, but I'll jump back on that. So the last one I want to mention to you is, now, I don't know, a lot of people have been talking about How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. Got the book here.
I read that book.
And yes, and it's phenomenal. I'm reading it now, but there's a part that I've already read that I want to use to change some language in this next statement. And so, we talk a lot about structural racism, institutional racism, and things like that. But he argues that those words are big and large. And what he's trying to do is simplify all of this for all of us. And so I like how he says, let's look at it as racist policy. Two words. Everybody tends to understand what this means. Okay, but then you got to go deeper to help them unpack it more. So here's the question. How has the current national conversation regarding police brutality and racist policy changed and challenged you in your position as Chief Diversity Officer? So how has this national conversation that we're having now on police brutality and racist policy, both of them, I know that's kind of loaded there, changed and challenged you in your role?
This is, like so many people, this has been a very emotional time, more so than I would have thought. And over time, this is not something new. This is something that's been going on for hundreds of years. But just seeing this each and every day, and we know that our students, our staff, our faculty are experiencing all this anxiety, all this stress and anger. I mean, for me, I have that anger that goes along with this. I have kids. One of my kids was even stopped by the police because she was driving our car, which the police didn't think she belonged in. So these things are very real for me, for so many people. So it makes me even push harder to change and make us look at our policies, look at how we can make them more equitable, how we can change the way we think and practice. So it is so close to my heart, so close to the work that I would like to see happening. But I want to be able to create a place where we are accountable for the things that we say we're going to do. And that is that. I mean, I've always wanted that, but I am pushing harder and harder and pushing for change to come a lot quicker than what we typically think of change in the university system.
Thank you. And so from the chat questions, I think there's time for one. If my facilitators, organizers tell me I can do another one, I will. But here's the one real quick. They've asked, how do we get people who need diversity training? You've already talked about all that we do now. How do we get them to buy in without resentment? Is the privilege walk, an exercise like that, is that a first good step?
That is one step. I mean, and what I've learned through the years is that, most people that come to the sessions are people that are kind of like-minded. There's a group that, okay, well, I'm interested, let me see what it's about, and then accept it. There's going to be a small little group that no matter what you do, you're not going to convince them. But one of the things for me that is the strongest thing is hearing someone's story. It's hard to look at someone in their face, and if you hear that story, it may not affect you right then, but it's something that you don't forget. It's like, it's there. You can't change that. That story was there. You heard it. Whether you choose to do anything about it, that may be different. But you've heard that story. So we just keep on trying, because, a lot of things in my mind, some things like unconscious bias should be mandatory, because it just needs to be mandatory. But we just keep on bringing these issues up, and presenting the trainings, and just keep on doing what we can do, but with the understanding that we know we're not gonna get everybody on board. So that's something you just have to accept and keep moving on. And eventually it is going to be to the point where there's more people that are accepting these ideas and being part of this work than not. And either you join or eventually you drop off.
You reminded me of Professor Eddie Glaude. I know some of us have been listening to him, learning from him. He's at Princeton, and he was on a discussion with Ibram not too long ago. They had some teach-ins, and he's talking about he's not spending his energy trying to convince anymore. He's spending his energy doing the work, and so through his model, through his daily commitment, on what I think he referred to as his Jerusalem walk. He's all wordsmithy and stuff, but that what he's going to do, because there's not a lot of time, everything is fleeting, and we need to be particularly engaged in all of these moments. Like Dr. Michael Anthony would tell me, my former supervisor at the Cultural Center, we need to get into some clouds down thinking for ourselves, and so I love that. I love that you said that, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. Hopefully folks who are listening or watching this on the recording are thinking the same thing. I know we have a lot to do, but we've done a lot, and for that we appreciate the institution. There's one question here. She said I could do one more. Let's see my phone. Y'all forgive me. Let's see. Okay, so how intentional is the university in its recruitment of African Americans, particularly regarding the School of Medicine?
We are getting more intentional as the time goes by, and we have put things into place. We've changed the way we look at applications. We have put more diversity on the admissions committee, so that you can look at different perspectives. So this is an area where we know we have to improve, and we are intent. There's many of us are intent on improving it. We just did unconscious bias training on Tuesday, so that hopefully that when people hear the application or hear of the things about applicants and read those, they will look at it a little bit differently. The way we look at the applications, like, you know, sometimes there's been evidence that look at a name and that makes people make a decision or a judgment. Taking away those names, taking away the pictures. So we're putting things into place, and we've even started putting questions on the application now related to disparities and those kind of issues on the application, so that we can see who is really interested in making a difference, how have they shown it in their past. So those kind of things are being put in place. So it's exciting to see the change.
And I know one you didn't mention. You have one of my BFFs down there, Dr. Dwayne Compton, and he will tell everybody. It starts in the mind and it starts young, which is why he talks to middle school students, which is why he speaks to, you know, pull my 13-year-old and, hey, Sydney, what are you interested in? You know, and so having people on the front lines, again, who are willing to engage in conversations that matter to the people to which they're talking, to whom they're talking. So I appreciate that. And, you know, he and other folks on the team will come to Simmons and be a part of our Men and Women of Simmons forums and things like that. So partnership is
the School of Medicine is definitely not perfect. Definitely not perfect, and we still got a lot of work to do. But I am encouraged that we are making steps to change some things.
Yes. And with that, I want to thank everybody for being here and for staying here and for engaging and sending your questions through the chat. I wasn't able to share all of them, but hopefully this is a continued conversation. We're not going to take 365 days to come back to this conversation. Hopefully this is going to happen tomorrow in somebody's office or in somebody's home. I appreciate it. And then I want to thank you all for letting me be the alum to come and host. I'm honored. And with that, I will turn it back over to our organizers.
So I just want to say thank you to Dr. Faye Jones and Phyllis Clark for having this conversation with us and sharing with us how the university is continuing its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just want everyone to know that everyone in attendance will receive a follow-up email with the recording as well as a survey about this event. Additionally, I would like to invite everyone to our September Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity virtual events. On September 24th, we will host Maintaining Your Mental Health While Fighting for Social Justice. And on September 30th, we will host a Safe Zone training. The links for those events are in the chat, so please click on those links for more information and to register. Thank you again for attending, and I hope everyone has a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.